The off season is here. Fantasy football guru league is over. We have a new champion. Now we're gonna do a review. Pedro, how are you doing, man?
I'm a little bit under the weather, but I am back.
Nice to
It's,
take a nice little break to Two versus Brother podcast.
mhm.
People thought that we were done, but we're actually better than ever, and we're back on top. So
Definitely.
So we what we decided to do, since this is the dead time, and we wanted to create some intriguing conversations throughout the chat, throughout the league, is taking a step back and give a review on the league. Now, how is it we're gonna do? So we decided, similar like when you go to ESPN, you go to SI, you look team by team review. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through a 10-part series and we analyze each team of what they did. So basically, the format will be like this: we're going to look at their draft, we're going to look at their transactions, including trades, what went well for the year, what went bad, and what do we expect for the future. So and we're gonna go all the way until we get to the last person. There's no specialized order. We're just gonna randomize who we want to talk about today, and
hmm
that's how we'll do it, right, Pedro?
Definitely, Alfredo. But I think we should let's just start off with a guy that you're very fond of, a guy that has been by your side since the very beginning of this year. Let's start off with your wise man, our dear friend Steven.
Absolutely, man. I would love to talk about Steven. I think he'll be the first person that we'll talk about. So let's talk about Steven's team. 2024 year in review. So Pedro, let's go
Mhm.
into the draft. Couple of interesting picks. He had the first overall pick. Obviously he started out with CD Lamb. I
Mhm.
think it was a very obvious pick. But what else caught your attention there in the draft? What Steven did?
Well, besides the pick of CeeDee Lamb, because at the end of the day, I think it was the unanimous pick. Like, who at that point would have picked anybody else with the year that CeeDee Lamb had? Um, and then you look just one more pick later, and you look at Isaiah Pacheco, and you're thinking, yeah, this looks good. You have the first overall pick. You go on the second round ahead. You go and you pick Isaiah Pacheco, which is on the Kansas City Chiefs, that is looking to run the ball. They're looking to get and take the helm away from Mahomes, so he doesn't have to carry the whole load of the team, which
Exactly. Yep.
they were saying that for all offseason.
No, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But obviously we have the hindsight to look back on and see exactly how everything transpired.
I mean, I going now to the middle rounds as well. I mean, I like
Mhm.
from what Steven did. Rashad White. I mean, he had a great year last 2023.
Mhm.
So nobody imagined that Bucky Irvin was going to break out, but obviously at that moment Rashad White was a good pick. George Pickens was the number one receiver for the Steelers. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I love. I think Steven had a very strong late round. He had Ladman Conkey. Not many people knew about him at that time,
Mhm.
and he took a sleeper on them. He picked up Brock Bowers, a tight end for the Raiders, another rookie. So he had solid. I mean, if you look at according to Yahoo, you know what grade they gave him on his draft?
What was it?
They gave him a C plus.
Mm. Yeah, I kind of agree. If we were looking back at the whole situation back then, I looked at his draft and I thought it was fine. I didn't see like, obviously you're gonna run in and you're gonna see CeeDee Lamb, and you automatically know this guy's gonna put up 20 plus points a game. you got a good guy there. So everything looks great on his draft. But Alfredo, we have to look back now that the year is finished and tell me, Alfredo, looking at his draft, if he didn't change anything in his team, would he have stayed exactly where he was in ninth place?
I mean, really analyzing, I think he even himself admitted. And obviously, I think we can go back on what went bad on that session. But just looking into that draft, I mean, maybe a little patience would have helped out. If he would have been a little bit patient, probably he would have seen a different results. But just in the draft part, I did wanted to bring out this interesting thing from what Yahoo said. And again, this is we're just reviewing the draft.
Yes.
Yahoo said that his best draft pick was Anthony Richardson in the 8th round. And then his worst draft pick was Lad McConkey in round 9. Interesting.
Wow.
Just breaking down the draft. I mean,
the $1 billion company, Yahoo.
The $1 billion company. But let's go on now. Now that we talked about the draft, Pedro, obviously the draft is just a part of it. But also I wanted to talk about the next session, in which is Steven's transaction. So he had his team, and obviously here's the moment where we can talk about his trades, free agent pickups, anything that stood out for you in his transaction that he did in 2024.
Well, the biggest one, in my opinion, when I'm going to look at the transactions for him, is the trade that he did with Danny. And very much in the very beginning of the year, Danny was toting that I can't believe that you guys let me get Tyreek Hill at what was it, the 7th or whatever it is that he had, in the 7th pick. So that trade, I think, pretty much cemented the rest of the year for Steven and also Danny. Let me see if I could bring it up.
At that time, put it like this. Thinking about Steven's point of view, he was at that time 0-3. I think he was, he had a bad start.
Yes.
Because looking into his team, I mean, let's look at it. I think he was at a time, Steven, week 1. Yeah, so Steven lost week 1. He lost week 2. He lost to Alex and then to Danny. So he was already 0-2. And then he lost to Armando. So he was staring at 0-3 when he made that trade.
Yep.
If you feel that your season was ending, what would you think? I mean, it was a risk.
Yeah, it was a risk, but like he even said it later on that he needs to have more patience in his team, because it's hard. Like I even believe so. It's hard to see yourself losing and not do anything about it. And his team was especially with the early injuries and things that were happening. His team was anemic and he needed to do something. Was that something of trade with Danny? Maybe not.
Well, let's break down the players that were traded in that deal. So Danny gave up Tyreek Hill for Chris Olave and Brock Bowers.
Let's see. Chris Olave, George Pickens, and Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
And he received, let's see if I can pick it up, because
Tyreek
for some reason Yahoo, the multi-billion-dollar company, isn't working right now for me. But yeah, in his side of the deal, he picked up Tyreek Hill, which that was basically the play. He packaged a few guys together that had pretty much a good because Brock Bowers, he was an unknown, but he had talent, and you knew it from that point on. George Pickens, we know that he has talent, and Chris Olave, also another talented guy that just always ends up in a bad situation. So, in all actuality, it looks to me, it looks to me like that trade in the very beginning, he won it. Am I wrong to assume that?
No. At first, obviously, we were making fun of Danny
Yeah.
because you're like, how are you going to give up on a generational talent like Tyreek Hill? Even though I was saying his downfall was coming,
Hmm.
but a generation talent like Tyreek Hill, traded him away for Brock Bowers, George Pickens, and Chris
Hmm.
Olave. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean,
Yeah.
people were making fun, but at the end, Danny had the foresight of what was happening to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, because he, at the end of the day, the trade was for that. It was those three guys for Tyreek Hill because Mark Andrews and Emmanuel Wilson wasn't, in my opinion, that's not really a big part of the trade.
Yeah,
We have to this either take away the parts that don't make sense and just look at what makes sense.
I mean,
And
and he was 0-3 at that time.
yes,
And then I think the other problem that happened to him was that Pacheco. Remember, Pacheco at that time,
Mhm.
he got hurt. Basically, yeah, I think it was already week 2, week 3. He was
Mhm.
already hurt. So yeah, he was staring at 0-3. Remember, the clown. He was possibly going to become the clown.
Yep.
Pacheco's out, so he did this monster move, to be able to get.
Yeah, to be competitive. Because Pacheco, I'm looking at it now. He went down week 2 to week 3 because he didn't come back. And it's funny because he got Pacheco again later, and then doesn't look Pacheco did any good again. Pacheco, man, he came back and he probably came back too early, man. But yeah, that's beside the point. Now, in my opinion, he did other little trades and little transactions that when he did them made perfect sense. He traded to me Xavier Legette. Xavier Legette had one good game, and he packaged him in a deal and got himself a quarterback. He went and he got himself a guy that everybody thought was going to be really good, especially with Anthony Richardson being as bad as he was.
Yep.
Now the name escapes me because I had it in front of me.
Jordan Love.
No, not Jordan Love. Was it Jordan Love? Traded. Give me a second. September. No, CJ Stroud.
Oh yeah, so it was for CJ Stroud.
It was for CJ Stroud. So he went and he got CJ Stroud. That to me at that point in time I thought about it as a decent trade because I didn't need that guy on my team. I saw him as going down, and obviously it looked delicious for him.
Yeah.
So
I think he, also I think he started seeing. There was a time that he had Jacoby Myers. I mean, he had him in his squad, and then he's dropped him. I think he even mentioned it in the podcast. That's one of his, regrets.
mhm.
I mean, you started seeing, as time goes on, talking about this session of transaction. I did like that as the year went on, Steven became a little bit lot smarter, and he went with the strategy that, of course, it was heavily criticized, but it was very smart. Every game, he would pick up. I mean, if you look at the number of transactions,
No, incredible.
Steven, in total, he had 165 transactions. The person in second place was Armando at 82. So he basically doubled the number of transactions what everybody with the person in second place.
Yeah.
But based on his situation, he had to hustle, and he did find some good gems. I mean, going towards the end of the year with his squad, I mean, he ended up getting better pieces, decent pieces out of there. Let me see. He ended with Jonu Smith. Yeah, Jonu Smith helped him out.
Yeah, definitely.
Najee Harris. Yeah, Najee Harris was a good trade, good pickup there that he had. Jerry Judy.
Jerry Judy.
That was a good pickup. So
yeah, but just as he had really good pickups towards the end of the year, he had good pickups and then drops. Because think about it, he could have had Chuba Hubbard on his team. He had it on his team, and he dropped it. That's the part where I'm saying the foresight wasn't there. And obviously that team was a bad team, but he was, in my opinion, he was the lone bright spot on that team.
Yep.
So,
well, let's talk about the next section. What went well for Steven? I'll say this. I think what went well for Steven, and he can clamor this for the entire year, is that he has been the only one to beat the Dream Team during the regular season.
And almost twice.
And almost twice. I mean, he can basically say that. While nobody was able to beat him, the Dream Team beat certain people twice.
Mm-hmm.
Steven was the only one to beat him. And actually, like I said, could have beat him twice. I mean, I would say another bright spot for Steven is that he avoided the Clown Bowl. I think, that week 17,
Yeah.
his season.
He avoided the clown suit, so yeah.
He avoided the clown suit. But I think another thing that went well with him is that I think he realized that, sometimes trades are not necessary every single time. I think he realized that to be successful sometimes takes patience. We looked at his draft. If he would have maybe stick through to his draft, he would have had a much better team. Look, McConkey. How was the McConkey? How did you land it with McConkey? He traded him to Armando, right?
Yeah, no, McConkey has been passed around, but he went from I believe from him
to Armando,
and then Armando gave him to me. When he was trying to beat Franklin. So everything turned like, to me, McConkey was a godsend at the time because he really helped me out. And it's if he would have kept him, I'm pretty sure that he would have beaten. Just looking at his team, let me go over here and see this, because if he would have kept McConkey, he would have definitely. Let me see. Let me go back and look at them.
Think about his wide receivers. If he would have kept his draft, he would have kept CeeDee Lamb,
Mm-hmm.
George Pickens, and Ladd McConkey.
And and then the pickup that he had,
and then Judy, he would have picked up
Judy. So he would have been set. Just in wide receivers, he would have been set. Obviously, running back's a different situation. It's hard to pick up running back, but wide receiver, he would have been set. I think. I'm trying to pick it up now. I believe you look at the Consolation Bowl because he faced Kokis. If he would have had him on his team, he most likely would have beat Kokis. He would have beat Kokis.
Yeah.
No, if he would have had him on the team, he would have beat Kokis. But
think about it, and Brock Bowers. He would have kept on with Brock Bowers.
And Brock Bowers. He definitely would have beat Kokis. He probably, in my opinion, I don't think he would have been. It's possible he wouldn't have been in the Clown Bowl. It's very possible. He would have, in my opinion, he would have leapfrogged Los Kokis because Los Kokis, his team broke down towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Maybe he would have leapfrogged Danny. The thing is, would his team be enough to leapfrog the guy in sixth place, which I think was Franklin, which I don't think that would have been the case. But it's possible.
Yeah, anything is possible.
But
so let's talk about what went bad for Steven.
We kind of touched on it, Alfredo. The trades, pretty much all the trades that he did. Not all of them because he did a few trades that helped him out, but the one specifically the one with Danny, giving away Brock Bowers, because there was a point in time where Brock Bowers was Danny's bread and butter. That in my belief is one of the things that pretty much brought him down, and then not pretty much taking care, like having the foresight to just say, relax, let's not make any big deals, let's look at what we have, and let's build on that. Because obviously, if you're going 160 transactions, God, that's a lot of transactions. Let me see if I can pull up the transaction list for everybody.
I'm looking at it now. Yeah, he had 165. So he had 165, Armando 82, Danny 67, Jonathan
Mhm.
63. I had 62, 58 Lokokis, Franklin 58, Alex 43, you 38, and Ralph 31.
Well, the guy that barely did any transactions won the league. This is
Won the league.
crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. I
It
will
just
say
it,
things that didn't go well for Steven. I mean, he did have sometimes in fantasy football, luck is needed, and I think he did have a lot of bad luck of his schedule. He did,
Mhm.
and I'm looking at it here. Points allowed. He did allow the most points for the year, at 1,998.
Mhm.
And Los Coquis was second worst. So that that kind of contributed as well. Contrary, the person who allowed the fewest points um, was when do I fall off the cliff? He allowed 1,605. He allowed almost 200 less points than the person in second place. So Steven had a lot of bad luck there.
Yeah.
But also in points, Steven scored the second fewest points in the league. So it's
Yeah.
not a good recipe for success when you can't score and then you also allow the most points.
Correct. Yeah. It's for his placing 4 and 10. It obviously lent to that. Obviously, he wasn't the worst. I was the worst, but
Yeah.
yeah. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's especially in this league that's very competitive. You can't have a bad luck, and on top of that, not be good.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
let's talk about the future in Steven's team. We kind of broke down already 24. Now, look at his keepers situation. What do you have to say about his keepers?
Wow.
You see his final roster, who he ended up with. Who do you
Mhm.
think he's keeping with? Actually, he had Joe Flacco as his quarterback. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
man.
he's good.
I don't
So
know. He beat me with Joe Flacco. What do you want me to say?
yeah, so
But yeah, to be honest, I believe as the year goes on, his keeper situation would have to stay probably Tyreek Hill, Jerry Judy, and CeeDee Lamb.
but Pedro, would you really keep Tyreek Hill for a second round pick? Because he has CeeDee Lamb, so CeeDee Lamb will be his first round pick, and then
Mhm.
Tyreek Hill for his second round. Do you think he would keep CD Tyreek Hill? He would lose a second round pick for Tyreek Hill?
Like who else is worth it? John Smith, a tight end.
No, he doesn't have to keep three guys. He can just stay with one or two. I mean,
Yeah, but why at that point? Like John Smith went in the 10th. You could keep him in the 10th in this situation. So that's the only other guy on his team that makes sense.
do you think Judy will be a keeper? Should be a keeper?
Judy should be a keeper. Well, obviously it depends. Like I'm saying, it depends on the situation, who they bring into Cleveland. His his keeper situation is, in my opinion, is not as bad as he makes it out to be. But I think that if he should keep Jerry Judy if they put in a good quarterback with a guy that could throw the ball. And with an offensive coordinator that can throw the ball and coach that can do all that. If that's the case, I think he should keep Jerry Judy. John Smith, if he wants to keep John Smith, and he looks decent. But keeping a tight end is not. I don't think that's like the
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
unless it's Brock Bowers, maybe.
I
I
mean, for
don't
that
know.
he can keep Ingram. I mean, so for tight end, Ingram, it's a 10th round. He'll probably be a 10th round keeper.
Yeah, but so is John Smith.
Yeah, but Ingram I think is better. So,
It depends, man. Let's see what happens. But
what do you think about Rasheed Rice? He had Rasheed Rice
yeah,
there. Suspension, Kansas City offense.
he
I
kept
agree.
him the whole year. He put him on his IR the whole year, only for Xavier Worthy to ball out in the at the end of the year and in the playoffs.
Yeah, and somebody has that guy.
Yeah, somebody picked him up. I wonder who it is.
Yeah, like a snake, man. So Rasheed Rice. I mean, obviously, I mean, that's gonna be a tough call because now with what we're seeing in the playoff, Xavier Worthy is coming along. So maybe Rasheed Rice might not be worth it. He will be a fourth round price to keep.
Probably, yeah, he may not be in the like something you would want to keep at that round.
So what would you
Um,
give? What grade would you give Steven's keeper situation?
Obviously, time will change everything heading into next year. But at this point, I'm gonna give him a C because I think really you have Jerry Judy, and if Jerry Judy it continues to ball the way he was during the end of the year, then I think he's gonna be fine. And to be honest, he probably will be fine just with Jerry Judy and CeeDee Lamb because I think CeeDee Lamb is worth a first round pick
No,
next
yeah,
year.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
just off of those two, I think he's probably fine.
okay, perfect. Well, this is our team review. We unveil Steven's team. We gave a nice review. Hopefully, he agreed on to what we said. We wanted to pick him first because we know he's an active participant in the chat, and I know for sure Steven will have something to say. Pedro, we're looking forward. Who do you have in mind? Who do you have in mind to give the review next? Who
Oh
do you want
boy,
to do with?
I don't know. I'm thinking about somebody that that talks a lot. That he's like a bad guy to everybody in the league. You know, some may think that he spends a lot of time in Georgia, but that's for we'll bring that up next time. How about that?
Okay, we'll decide who will give the review on next. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have a
Well,
couple
next.
people I kind of do want to dissect.
Oh, sure. I know. I'm very. I really want to know who you want to dissect. I think there's only one guy really that you really want to dissect.
Yeah, it's only one guy I have in mind. So,
It's
all right,
okay. We'll flip a coin.
all right, bro. All right, pleasure, guys. Remember, subscribe to our channel if you want know more about our league, about our group here, the Two versus Brother podcast. You subscribe, hit the like button and join us.
Alrighty, guys.